Hey, I recently received an email from my company, Armstrong Relocation, and it was a letter congratulating me on my last 18 years with the organization. Wow, I mean, I was thinking, 18 years, where does the time go? And what's fascinating is as I started reflecting on my last 25 years in the industry, I started thinking about how easy it is to look back and see the mile markers, the milestones, the things that helped me get to where I am today. But early in your career, it's so difficult to see what it's going to take to get there. And so as I was reflecting, I wrote down 10 things that have been mile markers for me over the last 25 years in relocation. And I thought I'd share them with you today. And the first thing was when I first moved to Dallas, Texas back in 1995, I was a young manager. I didn't know a whole lot. I was trying to do everything myself. And I was having some challenges, and my brother actually handed me an audio tape by John Maxwell, and it literally changed my perspective. It changed the way I went from manager or managing to leading, and it gave me like this hunger for personal growth and to develop as a leader. And so always grateful for that. I also, early in my career, I joined another company, the federal companies, and became the operations manager and later became the general manager. But right when I got to the company, I realized that I needed help. And I hired a young man by the name of Heitor Defaria. And Heitor, man, he was a blessing in my life. He showed me what excellence was all about and how to really create a culture in the organization. We, had low quality scores. We went to the top. It was an incredible experience, and I'm forever grateful. And what I learned there is that you can't do it by yourself. You need people along with you. And then later, I took a job in Wichita Falls, Texas, for a company called Albert Moving and Storage, and I just remember that I wasn't committed, and I learned there that if you're going to do something, you gotta be all in. You can't have one foot in and one foot out. It's either, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this or I'm not. And I learned a valuable lesson there. And so I later joined Armstrong Relocation. And what I remember as I look back, I think about when I took the job, I took a 50% pay cut. With the opportunity to earn more if I did well. But I was really taking that job based on two things that I wanted in my career. And I wanted autonomy, and I wanted to be surrounded by great people. And so the lesson there is that whenever you decide to make a change, or if you're thinking about making change, think about what are your values? What's driving that? And when you know what your values are, you will see very clearly. And so define your values, write down those values. Brene Brown always talks about you should always know two values. If somebody asks you what your values are, you should be able to just immediately share what those two values are. And I would love to hear what yours are. And then my boss, Mike Gonzalez, he always encouraged me to network. And so I learned about the value of networking. But what I really learned was at first I thought, well, networking was meeting people. But really what networking is really being able to connect others. That's real networking, right? Meeting someone, learning about their gifts, learning about how they can help people, and then later being able to connect them with someone. That is real networking. And we all need to develop our networks. And that was so important for me in my career. And then volunteering. We've got to get out and you got to invest time. You got to give back. And what's interesting about volunteering is I was, of course, president of the regional relocation worldwide ERC, which is North Texas Relocation Professionals. I was president of that organization back in 2011, president for Dallas HR, the third largest SHRM chapter in the country. Back in 2012, I've served on the board of trustees. Today I serve on Texas SHRM. You know, a lot of times we think, man, we're busy. We're all busy. But what we don't realize is the investment of volunteering will come back tenfold in so many different ways. I'm a better leader today because of my volunteer leadership. But here's the most important part. I have so many friends because I volunteered. And so I just want to encourage you to get out there and volunteer. And when times get tough, you just got to keep going. Later in my career, actually, as I was going, you know, it's probably my 4th or 5th year at Armstrong, I received a note from Dave Nelson. And it was an encouraging note about, you know, my potential and where he saw me going. And I was thinking about, you know, how that lifted me and gave me confidence, and how we all need to be lifters in our careers. And we can be lifters in so many different ways. So we can encourage people by a simple note. Maybe we comment on their social media. Maybe we share something. Maybe we write a review for their book. Maybe we give them something for their podcast. Maybe anything to help encourage the other person. You know, maybe send somebody a book and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Jim Rohn used to always say that during challenging times, you can do 2 things for people. Number 1, you can refer a book to them. And number 2, you can smile. I mean, who doesn't need a smile, especially in today's times? And then I was thinking about how, you know, we need to always remember that little things lead to big things. You know, when I started at Armstrong, my boss handed me a book called The Little Red Book of Selling by Jeffrey Gitomer. And in that book, he talked about creating a newsletter. And I know newsletters are not that big a thing, right? It's little. But here's what it did for me. I started writing it, and I started getting better in my craft. And I started learning about what's important to people. And then later, 7 years later, I turned it into a blog called A Relocation Minute, which is now called Move to Inspire. And in 2017, I turned that into a book, my first book, Find Your Lane, and which is actually won an award for 100 best books for career change by Book Authority. And then later I turned it into a journal that I published, and then recently published Life in the Leadership Lane. And now I'm hosting Life in the Leadership Lane podcast and talking to the most incredible leaders in the workplace. And just because, you know, I started small, I started just writing a newsletter. So here's what my encouragement to you is that it doesn't matter what you do, just do something. Start small, something that you know, that brings you joy. And it will lead to very, very big things. And then lastly, I just want to say that I started, after I published my book, I started speaking more. As a matter of fact, my boss encouraged me to take Toastmasters early in my career, and I will always be grateful for that. I actually took a Dale Carnegie class when I was at Federal, and my boss at that time encouraged me to take that course. And that made me a better speaker. And then when I went to Toastmasters, I got better, and I just wanted to become a better communicator. And what's interesting about that is that I wanted to speak a lot early on, and I wanted to speak about what I wanted to speak about. And a lot of people, they, you know, didn't necessarily want me to speak. But today I'm speaking everywhere. And the reason why is because I've learned to look for and listen to what people need. And when I think about speaking, I think about hope. What a great opportunity we all have to give people hope. I'm going to share a last story here. And I was actually speaking at an event. And when I got done speaking, a lady come up to me. And she said, "Thank you so much for being here. You gave me hope today." And I said, "Well, when you say hope, that's a big word. I want to learn more." And she said, "Well, I've been a caretaker for my husband. He got cancer. And I had lost hope. And now I realize that, you know what? I can start where I am today." And so, hey, I hope this has encouraged you in some way. I have had an incredible journey. I'm so grateful for you, and I can't wait to see what's ahead. So, hey, keep inspiring, and let's make a difference.